Imagine this. One man's decision to play it safe will make him a billionaire. The other man, too bold for his own good, risks it all, certain he'll win big. One rises to the top of the financial world, securing wealth and stability. The other, he loses everything, his fortune, his reputation, and his future. So, what's the lesson here? Is taking risks really the path to greatness, or does it lead to utter destruction? Sterling and Calvin Whitmore both had a choice. Both men were born with privilege, destined for success, but only one of them understood the true cost of risk. And the other? Well, he learned the hard way that sometimes being bold is the most foolish thing you can do. In a grand study that smelled of aged books and polished wood, two fathers sat opposite their sons, their faces filled with the wisdom of years spent navigating the high-stakes world of wealth and business. Mr. Sterling, a billionaire investor, leaned forward, his voice deep and commanding as he spoke, filling the room with authority. "Son, everything I built on risk. But not all risks are equal. Calculated risks will make you a king. Destructive risks, well, they'll make you a beggar." Across from him, Mr. Whitmore, a tycoon in real estate, smiled, but with a knowing glint in his eye. "Son, you have to be willing to take leaps of faith. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but fortune favors the bold." Two very different approaches to the world of wealth and power, two philosophies that would shape the fates of their sons, and the stage was set for their lives to unfold in wildly different ways. As the years went by, both men inherited their family empires. They sat together in a high-rise lounge, overlooking the sprawling city below. Drinks in hand, the conversation turned to their futures. Adams, the son of Mr. Sterling, was dressed in a sharp suit, his mind always calculating. "Every move we make should have a safety net," he said, his voice measured and thoughtful. "Growth is important, but sustainability is key. You can't risk everything on a hunch." Calvin, Mr. Whitmore's son, sitting opposite Adams, was a man of action, his jaw set with the confidence of youth. He grinned, shaking his head slightly. "You think too much, my friend," he replied. "Money's not made by playing it safe. You have to go all in. If you're not willing to lose everything, you'll never get anything." Adams leaned back, observing his friend. "There's a fine line between being bold and being reckless, Calvin," he warned. "Risk is good, but only if you understand it." Calvin, smirking. "And that's why you'll always be the cautious one, Adams." They didn't know it yet, but that conversation marked the beginning of their two paths. One would rise through calculated decisions, the other through reckless gambles. The two friends were about to make their first big investment. Adams, true to his careful nature, chose a tech startup, a company with a solid business model and clear potential. He invested in it carefully, making sure to diversify his portfolio, spreading out his risk. He understood that growth wasn't about one big win, it was about building something sustainable. Calvin, on the other hand, took a different route. He went all in on a high-risk cryptocurrency venture. The market was volatile, yet Calvin's optimism blinded him to the warnings. He was convinced this was his chance to make it big. "It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Adams," he'd told him. "You don't understand. It's going to be huge." Adams, calmly. "You're betting everything on a market that's not stable, Calvin. You're putting your future on something that's volatile. Be careful," Calvin, grinning. "It's called boldness, Adams. I'm taking the leap. I won't let hesitation hold me back." The weeks passed, and while Adams's startup grew slowly but steadily, Calvin's cryptocurrency investment exploded. Massive returns flooded in almost overnight. He laughed all the way to the bank, and Adams watched with a mixture of awe and wariness. Calvin, intoxicated by his rapid success, doubled down on his investment. He was convinced that the market was just going through a correction, that the sky was the limit. Adams warned him once again, but his words fell on deaf ears. Adams, serious. This isn't going to last, Calvin. You need to pull back. You're gambling with everything. Adams, you're so paranoid. I've made my choice. I'm going all in. You'll see. This is going to be bigger than you think. Adams, concerned. You don't understand. The market's too unstable. You'll lose everything. But Adams's warning came too late. The cryptocurrency market crashed harder than anyone had anticipated. Calvin lost everything. Unable to cope with the loss, Calvin made one final attempt to recover his fortune. He was introduced to a group of shady business partners who promised huge returns in record time. The deal seemed too good to be true, but Calvin was desperate. He poured all his remaining money into it. Adams, warning, Calvin, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. You're trusting the wrong people. This isn't just risky, it's dangerous. Calvin, defiant. I don't have a choice, Adams. I've already lost everything. This is my only shot at redemption. But the deal was a scam, and within months Calvin's financial world completely collapsed. Adams continued on his path, his investments growing steadily. The tech startup was now a successful company, and he was expanding into new markets, finding solid opportunities. He mentored younger entrepreneurs, sharing his knowledge of calculated risk, and was well respected in the industry. Meanwhile, Calvin's life was in shambles. His estate was seized, his name dragged through the mud, and his reputation destroyed. He couldn't pay back his debts, and the investors who had once believed in him now turned their backs. Adams received a call one evening from Calvin, who had fallen far from grace. Adams, on the phone, concerned. Calvin, is everything okay? What happened? Calvin, broken, his voice barely audible. I've lost everything. I thought I could make it big, but I just destroyed everything. Adams, sympathetic but firm. It's not too late to rebuild, Calvin. But you have to learn the difference between taking a risk and being reckless. You have to learn the value of patience and wisdom. A few months later, Calvin, exhausted and humiliated, met with Adams in a small cafe. The man who once oozed confidence was now a shadow of himself. He looked tired, broken, and lost. Calvin, quietly. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought if I just went all in, I'd make it big, Guy, but now I have nothing left. Adams, gently. It's not about avoiding risk, Calvin. It's about knowing which risks are worth taking. If you understand that, you'll be able to rise again. Adams slid a check across the table, its amount substantial but not a true recovery. It was a chance to rebuild, but only if Calvin was willing to work for it. Calvin, shocked, voice breaking. You'd help me after everything I did? Adams, nodding. I've learned a lot in my life, Calvin. One of the biggest lessons is that failure is only permanent if you refuse to learn from it. Risk is inevitable, but how you take it determines whether you rise or fall. Calculated risks build legacies, slow, steady, and with a vision. Destructive risks, on the other hand, ruin lives, breaking them down faster than they can be rebuilt. In the end, fortune rises and falls, but wisdom prevails. Adams and Calvin both learned the hard way that risk, if not handled with care, can either make you or break you. The lesson is simple. Know the difference between a risk worth taking and a risk that will take everything from you.